Okay, so we're gonna take a look at how to deconstruct the uh, the way this face is drawn without color in just line work this time. Just looking at the structure and how it's laid out. So first we need to kind of capture the general shape that the head occupies here. And I usually go in and draw crosshairs about where the front of the front of the face and the line where the eyes will be, because the rest of the face depends on those. There's really not much other way to explain that except that they're foundationally essential. And from there, I usually take a look at the shape of the nose. And of course, she's got a very adorable little buttony nose. And I would usually pull the central defining shape of the nose back a little bit further. You can see there's very little distance between the peak of the tip of the nose and the line defining the inside edge of that one nostril. But that works well with the way the lips are pulled over, because what you're kind of seeing here is the inside edge of this nostril gets pulled into a shape known as the philtrum, which is that sort of little diamondy shape between the nostrils and the top of the lips. This is called the philtrum. And you don't quite see that line, but it exists. And so I'm sort of assuming it in there, blocking out sort of the composition here. Sort of the shapes this nose is making. And naturally these lips are kind of the star point, and you can see me over here on the reference sketch drawing, where do the edges of these lips line up with other features like the eyes. And there's always extra space here between the bridge of the nose and where the second eye is. And conventions of perspective will say to put kind of the width of one eye in between two others. And for cartoonish eyes, it's often a little bit less than one, depending on the style you're doing. And here the shapes of her eyes are not super symmetrical. One side is definitely, the outside edge is much higher than the inside corner, and the other one is much, that really adds to the surprise of her expression here. Asymmetry is a great tool. And you've got the definition of the inside of the eyelid, and then you've got the definition of the thickness of the eyelid, because the eyelashes grow out of the outside of the eyelid. We can see kind of from this point down, and that's going to be where the inside, or the corner of our lips are going to be. And I'm exaggerating this a pitch just a little bit because it's there. um, and I need to bring the fullness of this lip out further. Either that, or I need to bring this eye in a little bit further, maybe. And a lot of this is sort of visual proportioning of, looking between the two. Does that look too exaggerated? And I think it did look just a little bit too far. And I'm not using the actual sort of measuring that I was taught, where you can use your pen to like measure the width of the eye from here to here, and then see, how many down is that from where, because I do that with my literal pen, and that is not something that you can see in this recording. I think she's looking a little bit angrier in my rendition. We'll see what I can do to fix some of that anger into more surprise here in the shape of the eyes. It's kind of amazing how much just a very subtle difference in the arc of a single line can very entirely change a facial expression. Art is hard. And part of that is, this line defining the hood of the eyelid is looking like an angry eyebrow, so we need to add her actual surprised eyebrows up here. And that will help with the implication of disgruntlement. Even if you're not taking something all the way into color, things like the shine of the eyes can be defined in line work and still be effective in giving that sense of life to the figure you're drawing. And if a line is defined by a shadow, you can just draw it. There's the alarm saying it's time for our meeting, but I'm recording this video for you, so it will wait. But yeah, if you're ever, looking at something that is in color like the world and doesn't have lines on it, anytime a color changes, you're allowed to put a line there. Anytime a shape bends, you are allowed to define it by putting a line there. Because that's the way line work works in the illusions that it makes are showing us where things are changing and letting our brains go, oh yeah, I know what that looks like. I love this chubby cheek. I love it. And because of her hair, you can't really see where her jawline is, but because her ear is back here, you know that the top of the hook of the ear lines up with the edge of the eye. Or you don't, but I do, and I'm telling you this, so now you know. And then the bottom of the earlobe lines up about with the nose, and that lines up with the line of the jaw. And I usually like to draw the entirety of the shape of the face so that I know that it's there before I go in and add the fall of the hair being very, very cute here. And this artist does really great work with creating depth by having lines disagree. Like the hair doesn't end at the line of the forehead, it swoops past, and that gives her hair just that extra bit more volume. And like you can see that in super exaggerated effect if you look at like stills of the Little Mermaid, because it's an animation technique. If this person has not been trained in animation, I will be very surprised, because their drawing style is very much expression through movement and looks like principal frames in animation. You can see me going in here and removing some of my construction lines. Like even if I'm going to end up removing lines, I like to draw them again so that I know where the structure is underneath the things that will be hiding it. And again, here they're doing the thing where by not connecting a line, they're implying the depth or the thickness of a material. Like this flannel is not a thin piece of fabric. It's a flannel. And flannel is warm because it's thick. And so you capture that thickness in both the line and in how you define the shadow. And that's not quite, the lips are not quite off to the side enough. So let's skew that a little bit more towards the These are such porn lips. These are there's no other. And you can see where parts of the defining line are actually defined by the highlight when they went in to do the coloring. Then these wonderful glossy lower lips. Caught. But caught doing what? Drinking coffee? How dare. And again, once you have the general shape, there's a lot of sort of futzing. But I think that that pretty well shows sort of the shapes and thoughts that go into capturing why that face is so appealing and looks the way it does, and how to capture that kind of shape and movement and learn from it. The fact that the corner of the mouth here turns up a little bit is very important for defining the plushness and roundness of the upper lip, and also the fact that the embarrassment is not unwelcome. Sort of the oops, you caught me, but also the tee hee, what are you going to do about it? All right, let's call this done.